In the first lesson, we learned that neuroscience, how it impacts advertisements or the stories that the brand communicates in the advertisements to us to make an impact on the customer base. In this lesson, we shall understand a very critical and captivating concept for this entire course. How emotion outweighs logic in decision making, even in business context. This particular video is about story versus data. Why emotions trump over logic in business persuasion. What would be the learning objective of this particular video or of the module is, I would expect all the learners to understand why emotional storytelling influences decisions more deeply than rational data, and how effectively marketeers blend both sometimes for maximum persuasion. I hope all of us agree that you can't sell anything if you can't tell anything, right? You need to tell if you want to sell. This is a statement given by Beth Comstock, the former Chief Marketing Officer of General Electric. Now let's begin with a question. If I tell you, dear learners, company X has 35% market share, 97% customer satisfaction, and a 4.8 star rating. Probability is you will say, that sounds impressive. Instead, if I show you a 60-second story of a young woman in a remote village using, let us say, a solar lantern to help her daughter study at night, you suddenly feel something. Which one stays in our minds and hearts longer? The data may convince our heads, but the story wins our hearts, and hearts make the buying decision. Let us understand this critical phenomena point by point by point. Point one, how the brain processes data versus story. Data appeals to the logic-headed one. When we hear data, statistics, percentages, features, the neocortex in our brain is processing it. This part of the brain handles logic and language, but it does not trigger any action. Data tells us what to think, not what to feel. But story appeals to our emotions. Any story activates the limbic system in our brain, which is responsible for emotions, memory, and motivation. It helps us feel the brand's promise. And behavioral science has shown emotion generally drives over 80% of purchase decisions, while logic actually justifies that buying later on. The second point, the case for data. Some people love data, right? The rational approach when we are using data. Let's look at how data-based marketing works. And where does it fall short? Let's take the Dettol campaign for India. The campaign tagline is 99.9% germ protection. It is factual. It happens. It is data driven. It is scientific. The number 99.9% gives us confidence, precision, and authority. It works well when consumers seek trust and safety. Let's have a look at it.
रोजमर्रा की छोटी चोटें, खरोंचे, कटने या जलने पर इन्फेक्शन हो सकता है, इसलिए डेटॉल की नई पेशकश डेटॉल एंटीसेप्टिक क्रीम।
जो दे डेटॉल की वही सुरक्षा, डेटॉल एंटीसेप्टिक क्रीम, हर घर का फर्स्ट एड।
Right? But here's the limitation. Data-driven messages are not engaging our brain. It is not even engaging our heart. They are just informing us. Now that doesn't move us. But when the same product starts using a storytelling technique, the magic of the numbers, it becomes different. Now let's have a look at another example. Let's look at the Volvo ad. Right? They are talking about safety of numbers. Volvo often cites crash test statistics, safety rating, and the awards that they collect. Effective but not emotional until they start adding stories. Then the later campaigns started featuring real people whose lives were saved because of this precision Volvo technology. Suddenly, data had emotion. Let's have a look at this ad of Volvo, and you will be able to make out why I say data needs emotion.
A is for Amber, who's taking the bus. B is for Barry, who's feeding the doves. C is for Clara, cleaning her lambs. D is for Dora, hanging out with her friends. E is for Eric, who's digging too deep. F is for Freddie, whose heart stopped to beat. G is for Gary, who's crossing the street.
Well, let's take the third point. The third one, the case for a story, the emotional approach. Now let's see the power of a story. Remember, I was talking about the Google reunion ad. Two friends separated by partition are reunited through Google search. Well, the ad hardly mentions any features or algorithms or speed of Google. Instead, it tells a human story about connection, about nostalgia, and technology as a bridge. What happened, as I told you? The result is millions of people sharing it, millions of people crying, and we all fall in love with Google. Google became more than a search engine. It became a symbol of hope. Let's have a look at this ad. I'm sure many of you will have one small little emotional tug at your heart.
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ, लंगोटिया यार सी मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाबा आदम के जमाने। रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से झझरिया चुरा के खानी।
झझरिया?
और मेरा साहब नमस्ते।
नमस्ते, मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
और बेटे क्या हाल चाल है?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूदे फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे।
हेलो, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
फाजिल स्वीट्स?
हाँ जी। दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो,
यूसुफ अंकल?
कौन?
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में आप दोनों झझरिया चुरा के खाते थे?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूदे फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए।
दादू?
यूसुफ दी बड़ी याद आती है।
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था, झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था। वो भी क्या दौर था, मन पे न जोर था। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
भैया थोड़ा जल्दी।
मन मोर।
हाँ जी, कौन?
हैप्पी बर्थडे यारा।
यूसुफ, वो यूसुफ, वो मेरे बल्लू, वो यूसुफ है यार।
Let me take another emotional ad of India. Surf Excel, दाग अच्छे हैं. I think I started this entire program with this word, दाग अच्छे हैं. The brand could have easily said, Surf removes 99% stains. Instead, it reframed the stains as badges of goodness. It told stories of children helping each other and getting dirty in the process. What happened? The moral came out as an emotion of kindness over cleanliness. It built a marvelous, deep emotional equity, much, much beyond a detergent powder Surf. Let's have a look at this ad.
चल निकल, अरे चल जल्दी चलना।
अरे अरे नीचे देख के।
चुनो एक बॉल कराना यार।
ये ले मेरा ऑफ स्पिन।
ये ले सिक्सर। अरे मैं ऑफ स्पिन भी बहुत अच्छा खेलता हूँ।
पता है पता है।
अरे अरे देख के चल। तू यहाँ से कूद सकता है?
अरे नहीं नहीं, मेरे कपड़े गंदे हो जाएंगे।
अरे यार मैं कूद के दिखाता हूँ। अरे देख के चलना यार।
हाँ हाँ।
अरे 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 साइकिल वाले भाई साहब। अरे चुनू देख, अंकल गड्ढे में गिर गए।
अरे जल्दी चलो देखते हैं।
चुनू चल, तू हाथ पकड़। चुनू
मैं पकड़ता हूँ।
बाबा आपको कोई लगी तो नहीं ना?
नहीं बेटा नहीं, मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ बेटा, बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ।
बाबा ले लीजिए।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद बेटा, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। शाबाश बेटा। ये लो, ये लो।
यार आज तो कपड़े खराब हो गए,
आज तो पिटाई होगी।
ये अभी तक बच्चे नहीं आए, पता नहीं कहाँ रह गए आज।
मैं भी यही सोच रही थी, रोज तो अब तक आ जाते हैं। मैं विजय को देखती हूँ, कहीं घर तो नहीं आया।
अच्छा
चन्नू, खाना जल्दी खा के आना। बाय
बाय। मम्मी 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 खाना दो, भूख लगी है।
आ गया तू? ये तुमने अपने कपड़ों का क्या हाल बना रखा है? कहाँ थे तुम अभी तक? कहाँ थे तुम? कुछ बोलते क्यों नहीं?
मम्मी
क्या मम्मी मम्मी? तुम कहाँ थे अभी तक? जब देखो शैतानी, जब देखो शैतानी। हे भगवान, अब मैं कल तुम्हें क्या पहना के स्कूल भेजूंगी? बोलते क्यों नहीं कुछ तुम? हाँ
आंटी, आप इसे क्यों डांट रही है? आपको पता है, एक बूढ़े अंकल गड्ढे में गिर गए थे और उन्हीं को बचाने में हमारे कपड़ों का ये हाल हो गया है।
सच्ची?
सच्ची आंटी।
तुम लोगों ने एक बूढ़े अंकल की मदद की, फिर तो ये बहुत अच्छा काम है।
दाग लगने से कुछ अच्छा होता है तो दाग अच्छे हैं।
You see the difference? दाग अच्छे हैं? Well, let's get into the fourth one. Why does emotion work so better with us? Emotion is an action trigger. All of us are a bundle of chemicals. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio found that people with damaged emotional centers couldn't make decisions. They don't walk and talk with logic. They don't have feelings. There is no choice. Thereby, emotions, the second point is emotion creates a memory. Right? Facts fade away very fast, but that emotion lingers on with us. We remember how an ad made us feel. For example, the Daag Achhe Hai ad. Or what did the ad actually say? Emotions always build a connection between two unknown people. Emotional stories create empathy. We start caring for each other. We identify with the hero of the story and by extension, the brand. Emotion simplifies complex situation. For example, you going and giving a hug to your friend simplifies. On the other hand, data can be overwhelming, whereas stories simplify. When complex information is wrapped in a narrative, is given a story, is given a body, we are able to digest it and we are able to persuade it and believe it. Blending data and story is the sweetest spot the marketeers can use. They don't want to abandon data, but they want to weave in a story into it. Let's take the example of Tata Tea Jagore. What was the data here? Data said Indians don't want to vote. Very low voter turnout. So what was the story given? A young woman realizes that she has never voted. And she starts a movement. Wake up and take action. Data said how many people are not voting. But the woman said, after her realizing, please get up and exercise your right. And that created a movement by Tata Tea called the Jagore campaign. You can see this here.
अरे बॉस, आप सो क्यों रहे? हेलो मैम।
हेलो
आप सो क्यों रही हैं? आप चाय पीजिए, हाँ? चाय पी के तो जग जाएंगे बस।
आपका प्रॉब्लम क्या है? What's the problem?
अरे ये भी सो रहे हैं। आप सो रहे हैं सर? आप सो रहे हैं? भी चाय पिलाओ प्लीज। चाय।
क्या चाय लगा रखा है?
चाय। अरे ये भी सो रहे हैं।
आज छुट्टी का दिन है, हम लोग पिक्चर देखने
आए हैं। सबको चाय पिलाओ। वेक अप टाइम।
I am not sleeping, okay?
इलेक्शन के दिन अगर आप वोट नहीं कर रहे हो तो आप सो रहे हो। चाय मैम, जागोरे.com पे जाइए, वोटिंग के लिए रजिस्टर कीजिए।
अगर आप सोएंगे तो ये देश कैसे जागेगा? टाटा टी।
You see the energy out there and you start believing that let me go, right? Next one, Dove, the real beauty. Globally, it is said that only 4% women consider themselves beautiful. Surprising? Now, how do they weave story into this 4%? Real women, not models. They start sharing their insecurities and how they have accepted themselves. The 4% statistic gave credibility. It gave an entire story, a beautiful soul. What is the end result? Dove suddenly transformed from a simple soap to a confidence movement. And people fell in love with Dove. Have a look at that.
We had an option of 2 pathways to walk, and they led to 2 doorways.
Given the choice between a door labeled beautiful or a door labeled average, which would you choose? Dove's latest campaign set up entrances in Shanghai, San Francisco, London, Sao Paulo, and Delhi. They watched as women made the decision to walk through the beautiful door or the average door.
I went through the average door.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I didn't even hesitate.
漂亮对我的概念来说，就是像明星那种遥不可及的那种。我走的是一般。
Surprisingly, many women walked through the average door. In a recent survey by Dove, 96% of women do not choose the word beautiful to describe their appearance.
I walked into that door which said average and I didn't feel really good after that.
Todos os dias eu passo pela porta comum e ontem foi dia único e eu optei por passar pelo bonita.
The powerful results sparked a conversation about how women perceive their own beauty, and Dove wants them to be able to always choose beautiful.
I wanted to go through the average door, but my mum just pulled me over to the beautiful door.
Maybe I could walk in that door.
You can.
It was quite a triumphant feeling. It was like telling the world, I think I'm beautiful.
The hashtag Choose Beautiful campaign sends a meaningful message, and we hope it helps to inspire women all over the world.
Let me now give you a quick recap. What was the aspect, what was the data point, and what was the story? Okay? And where does it appeal to all of us? Either to logic or to reason, or is it emotion and empathy? When we have the signs going up in the neocortex or the limbic, there is a response of understanding, neocortex. The limbic, connection and action, emotion. Memory retention. Let me take the second one. We spoke about memory retention. Memory retention could be very low or very high. How do you use this? We use this to support a credibility factor of a particular brand. Let us say Maruti sells the highest credibility factor, right? Or we like to inspire a behavior like the Dove ad. 4%, but it had a behavior. People started behaving as if they are self-confident. Well, finally, I would like, how do you practice this? How do you craft this persuasive communications? When designing a brand campaign or when you are designing a pitch, you must keep certain points in your mind. The first point that you must always keep while designing a campaign is start with the emotion. Identify the human problem or the feeling that you want to tap in that particular campaign for a particular brand. Point number 2, support it with all data available. Let us say market share, let us say the number of sales or the cost. Add a key factor that will validate your story. But end it with a beautiful resolution which will talk about emotional satisfaction. That's when our brain starts rewarding us only. And then we say, hey, I need to buy this product. Correct? That was about communication. Let us take a reflection exercise. What is a reflection exercise? Let's take a look at two ads. One is a data-based ad. Colgate's 12-hour protection. That's the story. You brush, 12 hours, your mouth is fresh.
Introducing the new Colgate Total. Its dual zinc and arginine formula gives you stronger 12-hour anti-germ protection and helps fight 8 dental problems. Switch to Colgate Total today.
Whereas Vicks gives a story-based ad where touch of care is talked about. This ad has a transgender mother taking care of a young daughter.
मम्मी नाराज तो होने ही वाली। वो तो चाहती है कि मैं डॉक्टर ही बनूं। इसने हॉलीडेज खत्म और बोर्डिंग स्कूल शुरू। एक दिन भी एक्स्ट्रा रुकने नहीं दिया। मम्मी भी ना। मम्मी ने अपनी लाइफ अपने आप ही बनाई। 18 साल की थी जब उनके फादर ने उन्हें घर से निकाल दिया। अकेले रहने का तो सोचने से भी डर लगता है। मैंने अपने पापा को कभी देखा नहीं और मेरी असली माँ वो बहुत बीमार रहती थी। उनके बारे में सिर्फ एक ही दिन याद है जो मैं कभी भुला नहीं पाती। एक दिन कुछ लोग आए और उन्हें एम्बुलेंस में ले गए। फिर वो कभी वापस ही नहीं आई। फिर एक दिन मम्मी आई। बहुत प्यार से मुझे अपनी गोद में बिठाया और मुझे अपने घर ले गई। तबीयत खराब थी तो पूरी रात मेरे साथ बैठी रही। सुबह मम्मी ने एक सुंदर सी रेड फ्रॉक पहनाई, मेरे लिए ढेर सारे चिप्स बनाए। मम्मी के साथ 10 साल हो गए। अब तो मम्मी मम्मी कम और दोस्त ज्यादा बन गई। संडे हम दोनों का फेवरेट दिन है। बालों में तेल लगाने के बाद दोपहर में मेरा फेवरेट लंच कड़ी चावल और रात में हॉरर फिल्म। डर लगता है पर मम्मी होती है ना तो नहीं लगता। ये है मेरी मम्मी, है ना प्यारी। मम्मी ने लाइफ में इतने प्रॉब्लम्स देखे, कितना कुछ सहा है, पर फिर भी उन्होंने हमेशा मेरा ख्याल रखा है। सिविक्स बुक में तो लिखा है कि सबके लिए बेसिक राइट सेम होते हैं, फिर मम्मी को क्यों नहीं है? इसलिए मैं डॉक्टर नहीं लॉयर बनूंगी मेरी मम्मी के लिए।
I would want you all who are listening right now, the learners, to reflect on which one of the ad would you remember more? The one with the transgender mother or the one which says 12-hour protection? Which ad will make you feel something deep inside? Which ad will make you take the decision that, hey, I need to buy this product? Think about it. Put it down. Facts tell, but stories sell, dear ones. When you combine the both, you create believers. In business persuasion, logic informs, but emotion transforms. Because at the end of the day, we decide with our hearts and then we justify our buying of a brand with our heads, which is the logic point. So thereby, our head and hearts work together when we behave as a customer, when we hear a story, when the emotion reaches us and we reach to our pockets to buy the product.